Listen to me very carefully right now, because what I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds will completely change how you see your bank account forever. And I need you to understand something important. This isn't some fear tactic or a dramatic story to waste your time. Something real happened exactly 12 hours ago while most of us were sleeping. And it's going to affect every single dollar you've worked so hard to save. Today is Monday, January 12th, 2026, and your relationship with your bank just changed in ways you probably never imagined possible. The people making these decisions aren't asking for your permission, and they're certainly not advertising what they've done. I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening right now, step by step, and show you what you can actually do about it before this window of opportunity closes completely. But here's what you need to know up front. The time you have to protect what's yours is shrinking faster than anyone realizes, and most people won't understand what's happened until they try to withdraw their money and discover something has gone terribly wrong. Before we go any deeper, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because Money Aftermath is going to be your guide through what's coming next, and trust me, you don't want to miss a single update. Also, leave a comment below telling me if you've noticed anything strange with your bank lately. I read every single comment, and your experiences matter. Now, let me tell you exactly what changed at midnight, because this is where everything starts to make sense. A massive financial rule was activated that fundamentally changes how banks can treat your deposits when they run into serious trouble. This isn't something I'm making up or exaggerating. This is called the 2026 Resolution Framework, and it became legally enforceable across every major Western economy exactly 12 hours ago. For as long as most of us can remember, we were told that if banks failed, governments would step in with taxpayer money to save them. That's what we saw happen in 2008 and 2009. Bailouts became the solution everyone expected. But that promise officially ended last night at midnight. Under this new framework, something called bail-ins are now the primary tool banks must use before asking for any government help. And let me break that down in the simplest way possible. If your bank makes terrible financial decisions and loses massive amounts of money, they no longer wait for government rescue. Instead, they're now legally allowed to use your uninsured deposits to stabilize themselves first. The money you saved for years, the emergency fund you built, your down payment for a house, all of it has been quietly reclassified as emergency capital that banks can access when they are in crisis. Your savings have essentially become their insurance policy, and you never signed up for this. Now, I need you to understand why this matters right now, today, not sometime in the distant future, because what I'm about to show you explains exactly why banks might need to trigger this rule much sooner than anyone wants to admit. My name is Sarah, and you're watching Money Aftermath, where we cut through the noise and show you what's really happening with your money. Everything I am sharing with you is based on documented policy and real market data that you can verify yourself. This isn't speculation. This is what's unfolding right now while most people are completely unaware. And by the time we finish today, you will know exactly what steps you can take in the next 24 hours to protect yourself before this opportunity disappears completely. So let me show you what's happening in financial markets right now that connects directly to your bank account. Because this is where the story gets absolutely wild. When trading opened in New York this morning, something bizarre was happening with silver that has risk managers genuinely worried. Your brokerage app, if you check it right now, shows silver trading at around $71 per ounce. That's the official spot price you'll see on every financial website and app. But here's where things get strange. In physical markets in Tokyo this morning, actual silver bars and coins were changing hands at $130 per ounce. That's a $59 gap between what your screen tells you silver costs and what people are actually paying to get real metal in their hands. This isn't a small difference or a temporary glitch. This is a massive disconnect between paper prices and physical reality, and it's the sound of something fundamental breaking in the global financial system. Now, you might be wondering what silver has to do with your savings account. This is where everything connects in a way that should genuinely concern you. In December 2025, a report called the Bank Participation Report revealed something that shocked people who understand these markets. The 4 largest American banks, including institutions like JP Morgan, did something they haven't done in 40 consecutive years. They completely flipped their position on silver. For 4 decades, these banks were betting that silver prices would fall. They held what's called a short position, profiting when silver dropped. Then suddenly, with almost no explanation, they reversed course entirely. They started betting that silver would rise dramatically. But here's the part that should make you pay attention. They didn't just change their own bet. They strategically transferred a toxic short position of 215 million ounces onto foreign banks in Europe, Canada, and Asia. These foreign institutions are now legally obligated to deliver physical silver they don't actually have in their vaults at prices they can't afford to pay. They were short 25% of the entire planet's annual silver production at the exact moment when physical inventory has essentially vanished from accessible vaults. This is the definition of a financial trap, and someone is going to get caught. Here's how this connects to your money in your bank account. When these foreign banks collapse under the weight of their silver obligations, and many analysts believe this could happen within days or weeks, not months, they will immediately activate those bail-in rules that went into effect at midnight. If your deposits are sitting in any bank that has exposure to this derivative crisis, your savings could instantly become their emergency funding source. They would be legally authorized to freeze or reduce your account to cover their trading losses. The big American banks saw this crisis coming months ago. They protected themselves completely and positioned themselves perfectly while setting up everyone else, including everyday depositors like you and me, to absorb the losses. Share this video right now with your family and friends, because most people have absolutely no idea this is happening. Now let me show you the actual numbers behind this crisis, because mathematics doesn't lie even when prices on screens do. As of this morning, the COMEX, which is the exchange where silver trades in America, has what they call registered inventory. This represents actual physical metal available for immediate delivery. That inventory has essentially become a ghost. In just the first few trading days of 2026, delivery demands exploded to over 17 million ounces. That's 2% of the world's entire annual silver production being demanded in just 48 hours. The system has reached what experienced traders call a terminal ratio of 4,000 to 1. That means there are 4,000 paper claims for every single ounce of actual physical silver available. Let me paint you a picture of what that ratio actually means in real terms. Imagine 4,000 people all standing in line, each holding a receipt that says they own the same single ounce of silver sitting in a vault. Only one person can actually walk away with that metal in their hand. The other 3,999 people get handed a piece of paper saying, "Sorry, we ran out of metal. Here's some cash instead at whatever price we decide." This is like a game of musical chairs with 4,000 players and only one chair. The music stopped playing this morning. Here's where the situation gets even more concerning. For 40 years, whenever silver prices started climbing too high, big banks would create unlimited paper contracts out of thin air, flooding the market with fake supply to hammer prices back down. They could print unlimited paper silver to suppress real prices indefinitely because nobody was actually demanding physical delivery. But something fundamental has shifted in the market. The buyers are completely different now. The new buyers aren't American speculators who happily accept cash settlements when contracts expire. The new buyers are sovereign nations and massive industrial corporations demanding actual physical atoms of silver, not digital promises on a screen. Countries like China, Russia, and India, along with major corporations, are demanding physical delivery and refusing to accept substitutes under any circumstances whatsoever. This is why something called force majeure is now being discussed openly. Force majeure is when an exchange admits they simply cannot deliver what they promised. They'll attempt to settle all those contracts in cash, the fake $71 price, while real metal is trading at $150 or even $200 on the street. If your wealth is sitting in a paper ETF or what's called an unallocated metal account, you're about to be forcibly cashed out of potentially generational wealth, and there's nothing you can legally do about it because you agreed to those terms when you signed up. Now I need to tell you about what I call the red wall that's completely sealed off silver supply. On January 1st, 2026, China implemented a total strategic resource lockdown for critical materials. China refines 40% of the world's entire silver supply. Without Chinese refineries operating at full capacity, silver simply doesn't flow to Western markets in the quantities needed. Beijing issued absolutely zero export waivers for the first quarter of 2026. They're hoarding every single ounce for their massive 450 gigawatt solar expansion and their electric vehicle revolution. This decision created a two-tier reality that the financial system simply cannot handle. In the West, you have paper promises backed by nothing tangible. In the East, you have physical truth backed by actual metal sitting in vaults. The bridge that connected these two realities has completely collapsed. Secure logistics companies like Brinks and Loomis are booked absolutely solid through February. War risk insurance for shipping through dangerous areas like the Red Sea has become so expensive that most silver deliveries aren't even economically viable anymore. While banks scramble desperately to cover their exposed positions, something major is happening in the technology sector that's making everything worse. Samsung just announced their revolutionary solid-state batteries, and here's what nobody's talking about. These batteries require 1 full kilogram of silver per vehicle. That's a 3,000% increase compared to current battery designs. If just 20% of the global vehicle fleet switches to this technology over the next decade, they'll consume 25% of all silver mined on Earth every single year just for batteries alone, not counting any other industrial uses. Samsung executives aren't sitting around waiting for COMEX to sort out their problems. They're literally landing private jets at mining sites in Mexico and offering $80 per ounce for silver that's still in the dirt. They're bypassing the fraudulent paper system entirely because they understand the paper price is complete fiction. Then there's the Pentagon adding even more unstoppable demand to this crisis. Silver has been officially reclassified as a strategic war metal by the United States military. Each Tomahawk missile requires 15 kilograms of silver. Each fighter jet uses massive quantities in electronics and weapon systems. The military is what economists call an inelastic buyer, meaning they don't care if silver costs $73 or $300 per ounce. National security takes absolute priority over budget concerns, and they will pay whatever is necessary. This military demand cannot be turned off by normal market forces. Before we continue, leave a comment right now and tell me, have you started thinking differently about where you keep your savings? I want to hear your thoughts and concerns because we're all navigating this together. Now I need to tell you about something that arrived today that changes everything about the dollar in your wallet. Today marks the official end of what economists have called the Petrodollar era. Since the 1970s, the dollar's value was anchored to oil. Every country on earth needed American dollars to purchase energy, so they held massive dollar reserves, which kept our currency strong for 50 years straight. That arrangement officially ended today. The BRICS nations, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and dozens of other countries representing billions of people, have started settling their energy trades in gold-backed tokens and local currencies. They no longer need American dollars for international trade. This means trillions of unwanted dollars are flooding back to American shores, creating inflation pressure we haven't seen in generations. When too many dollars chase too few goods, you get inflation, and that process is accelerating faster than anyone in government predicted. The January effect is amplifying this chaos beyond anything we've witnessed before. Every single January, trillions of dollars in pension fund capital mechanically rebalances into whatever asset class performed best the previous year. The best performing asset of 2025 was silver by a massive margin. These enormous pension funds are now trying to purchase what amounts to 2 years of global silver production in a single week. They are discovering that the physical metal simply does not exist in the quantities their computer algorithms want to buy. The official spot price has become completely disconnected from physical reality. Something truly remarkable is happening on the ground level that mainstream media isn't covering at all. A parallel barter economy has exploded into existence practically overnight. Ordinary people who understand what's happening are dumping their digital dollars and scrambling to acquire junk silver coins. These are American dimes, quarters, and half dollars that were minted before 1965, when they actually contained 90% real silver content. In this shadow economy that's developing right now, a single silver dime is buying a loaf of bread at local markets. A silver quarter gets you a gallon of milk. A full silver ounce fills up a tank of gas in communities where people understand what's happening. Silver is being remonetized in real time by regular people because they no longer trust institutions that view their bank accounts as emergency survival capital. Now let me explain what all of this means for you personally, right now, today. Picture yourself standing on the deck of an enormous ocean liner that's slowly sinking into dark water. The captain comes on the intercom and orders all passengers to surrender their life jackets for the collective good of everyone on board. It sounds noble and reasonable until you notice something disturbing. The captain is actually wearing 3 life jackets under his uniform and quietly moving toward the only functioning lifeboat while nobody's watching. The banks are that captain in this scenario. They protected themselves months ago when they saw this crisis developing. They offloaded their catastrophic risk onto foreign institutions and unsuspecting depositors who had no idea what was happening. Now they're coming for your life jacket because the new rules say they legally can take it, and there's very little you can do to stop them once the process starts. Physical silver is your life jacket in this analogy. It exists completely outside their digital control grid where keystrokes can make wealth vanish instantly. It carries what's called zero counterparty risk, meaning no institution needs to keep a promise for it to hold its value. It cannot be bailed in to save an insolvent bank because they cannot click a button and make it disappear from your physical possession. When you hold real metal in your hands, you have effectively exited the system that was designed to extract your wealth during times of crisis. Let me tell you about some patterns I've been noticing that should concern everyone. In the past 3 weeks, there have been 14 separate incidents of bank IT systems going down for hours at major institutions. Customers couldn't access online banking, ATMs stopped working, and mobile apps displayed error messages. Each time, the banks blamed routine maintenance or technical glitches. But experienced financial analysts are noticing these outages coincide perfectly with massive silver contract settlements at COMEX. This isn't coincidence. This is what's called controlled instability. They're testing the system's ability to restrict access to funds during crisis moments. They're essentially running practice drills for the day when they need to freeze accounts while they execute bail-ins. And most customers have no idea they're being used as test subjects for financial lockdowns. Here's something else that should terrify you. Several European banks have already implemented what they call negative interest rates on large deposits. You heard that right. Instead of earning interest on your savings, you're now paying the bank to hold your money. This is wealth confiscation in slow motion, and it's spreading. 3 Canadian banks just announced similar policies for accounts over $50,000 starting in February. The strategy is brilliant from their perspective. They are conditioning people to accept the idea that your deposits are a burden to banks rather than an asset. This psychological preparation makes it easier to implement bail-ins later because customers have already accepted that their deposits are somehow problematic. Now, I want to talk about something called rehypothecation, because this is the hidden mechanism that makes the whole system vulnerable. When you deposit money in a bank, you think it just sits there safely waiting for you. But that's not what actually happens. Your deposit immediately becomes the bank's asset that they can lend out, invest, or use as collateral for other transactions. But here's where it gets insane. That same deposit can be used as collateral multiple times by different institutions in a chain. Your $1,000 might be supporting $10,000 worth of derivatives and leveraged bets across the financial system. This is why when one institution fails, it creates a cascade effect that threatens dozens of others. Your simple savings account is being weaponized as leverage you never authorized. Let me share some real numbers that illustrate how fragile this system has become. The total notional value of derivatives in the global financial system is estimated at over $600 trillion. That's not a typo. $600 trillion in derivatives built on top of a global economy worth maybe $100 trillion in actual productive output. This is a 6-to-1 ratio of bets to reality. Silver derivatives alone represent over $150 billion in notional value, but there's only about $30 billion worth of actual physical silver available in the entire world. This 5-to-1 ratio means someone is going to lose catastrophically, and the bail-in rules ensure it won't be the banks that suffer. If you're still watching, thank you for staying with me through this detailed explanation. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment telling me what state or country you're watching from. I want to see how global our money aftermath community really is, and your engagement helps this critical information reach more people who desperately need to see it. Let me tell you about the velocity of money, because this concept explains why inflation is about to accelerate dramatically. Velocity measures how quickly money changes hands in an economy. For years, velocity has been declining because people were saving and hoarding cash. But the moment people lose faith in their currency, velocity explodes. People spend money as fast as possible before it loses more value. We're entering that phase right now. When people discover their bank deposits can be bailed in, they'll rush to convert digital dollars into real assets. This stampede will cause velocity to spike, which amplifies inflation exponentially. The Federal Reserve has no tools to stop this once it begins, because raising interest rates won't matter if people fundamentally distrust the banking system itself. Here's a historical pattern that keeps me up at night. Every single major currency collapse in history followed the same pattern. First, the government assures everyone that everything is fine and stable. Second, they implement capital controls to prevent money from leaving the system. Third, they freeze accounts temporarily for technical reasons. Fourth, they announce a bail-in or currency reset that wipes out savings. And finally, they introduce a new currency and tell everyone to move forward. We're currently somewhere between stage 1 and stage 2 right now. The assurances are still coming from official sources, but the infrastructure for capital controls is being built in real time through those IT outages I mentioned earlier. Stage 3 could arrive faster than anyone expects, possibly within weeks, if the silver crisis triggers a broader derivatives collapse. Now let me address something important. Some people watching this might think I'm being overly dramatic or fear-mongering. I understand that skepticism, I really do. But I want you to do something for me. Go research what happened to depositors in Cyprus in 2013. Overnight, the government seized up to 60% of deposits, over 100,000 euros to bail out failing banks. People woke up to find their life savings had been legally confiscated. Look at what happened in Greece when capital controls were implemented. ATM withdrawal limits of 60 euros per day. Banks closed for weeks. People couldn't access their own money even though it was supposedly safe in insured accounts. This isn't ancient history or third world chaos. This happened in modern European countries within the last decade, and the legal framework that allowed it is now active worldwide. Lebanon provides an even more recent example. Since 2019, Lebanese banks have essentially frozen dollar accounts. People can't withdraw their own money. The official exchange rate bears no resemblance to the street rate. Depositors have lost upwards of 90% of their purchasing power while their account balances technically remain unchanged on paper. Their wealth was destroyed without a single dollar officially being confiscated. This is your future if you don't take action now. The mechanisms are identical, the legal frameworks are in place. The only question is timing, and all the indicators suggest that timing is measured in weeks, not years. Let me talk about what wealthy people are doing right now because their actions speak louder than any official statement. Ultra-high net worth individuals have been quietly moving assets out of traditional banking systems for months. They're buying physical gold and silver, purchasing farmland, investing in foreign real estate, and acquiring citizenship in countries with stronger banking privacy laws. These people have access to information and advisors that normal people don't have, and they're acting with urgency. When the smart money moves this decisively, you should pay attention. They're not panicking, but they're definitely repositioning their wealth outside the reach of bail-in rules. Here's something fascinating I discovered. Several major bullion dealers have implemented purchase limits on silver products. You can no longer walk in with cash and buy unlimited quantities. They're rationing physical metal because demand has overwhelmed supply so severely that they can't keep inventory in stock for more than hours after deliveries arrive. One major dealer told me off the record that their typical customer used to buy maybe 10 to 20 ounces at a time for casual investment. Now they're seeing first-time buyers walking in, trying to convert $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 into physical silver all at once. These aren't wealthy investors. These are middle-class families liquidating savings accounts and IRAs to get metal in hand. The premiums over spot price tell the real story. You should be able to buy physical silver for maybe $2 or $3 over the spot price. But right now, premiums are running $15 to $20 per ounce, and sometimes higher for smaller denominations like 1-ounce coins. That means people are paying $90 to $100 for silver that's supposedly worth $71 on paper. The market is screaming that paper prices are fiction. Now I want to address the question everyone's thinking. What should you actually do? I can't give you financial advice because I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and everyone's situation is different. But I can tell you what informed people are considering based on everything we've discussed. First, understand your bank's exposure. Not all banks are equally vulnerable to this crisis. Smaller regional banks with conservative lending practices and minimal derivative exposure are generally safer than massive international banks with complex trading operations. Research your bank's derivative exposure in their quarterly reports if you can understand financial documents. Second, consider diversifying where you keep your savings. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket has bail-in authority over your deposits. Spread your funds across multiple institutions to reduce concentration risk. Third, maintain some cash outside the banking system. I'm not suggesting you withdraw everything and stuff it under your mattress, but having emergency cash that you can access regardless of bank system failures is just common sense preparedness. A few $1,000s in small bills stored securely at home could be invaluable if ATMs stop working or banks limit withdrawals. Fourth, consider what percentage of your savings should be in physical assets that can't be digitally confiscated. Again, I can't tell you what's right for you, but some people are converting 10, 20, or even 30% of their liquid savings into physical precious metals that they store personally or in non-bank private vaults. Fifth, educate yourself continuously. This situation is developing rapidly, and information is your greatest asset. Subscribe to channels like Money Aftermath that cut through the propaganda and show you what's actually happening. Stay informed about banking rule changes, derivative exposure reports, and precious metal market conditions. Before we wrap up, I want to share something personal with you. I started researching this topic 6 months ago when I noticed strange patterns in banking regulations and precious metals markets. The more I learned, the more concerned I became, not just for myself, but for everyone who works hard and saves money expecting it to be there when they need it. That's why I created Money Aftermath. Not to scare people, but to empower them with information that mainstream media either doesn't understand or deliberately ignores. Knowledge is power, and right now you have knowledge that 99% of people don't have. What you do with that knowledge is entirely up to you. Share this video everywhere. Send it to your family members, your friends, your coworkers. Post it on social media. Most people are completely unaware of what happened at midnight on January 12th, 2026, and they deserve to know before it's too late to protect themselves. The algorithm will only show this to more people if you engage with it, so smash that like button, leave a detailed comment, and share this as widely as possible. Subscribe to Money Aftermath right now and turn on all notifications because I'll be tracking the situation daily as it develops. We're living through a historic financial transformation, and you need a guide who's actually paying attention to what matters. I'll be here, breaking down every development in language everyone can understand without the financial jargon that is designed to confuse you. Today, Monday, January 12th, 2026, the rules of money changed forever. The money you thought was safely stored in your bank account has been legally reclassified as a resource that failing institutions can access to save themselves. The price on your screen for precious metals is fiction maintained by a collapsing paper derivative system. The dollar you trusted your entire life is losing its reserve status faster than anyone in government wants to admit. Everything you were taught about how the financial system works is being exposed as a carefully maintained illusion designed to keep you passive and compliant while your wealth is systematically extracted. The question you must answer for yourself is brutally simple. Will you measure your wealth in ounces of real metal that has stored value for 5,000 years of human history? Or will you continue measuring it in digits on a screen that can be seized, frozen, or devalued with a single keystroke? The choice is entirely yours, but the window to make that choice is closing faster than most people realize. The banks already made their choice. The wealthy already made their choice. Foreign governments already made their choice. Now it's your turn, and you don't have months or years to decide. You have days, maybe weeks at most, before this opportunity closes permanently. Stay safe out there. Stay informed about what's really happening behind the headlines and official statements. And above all, stay prepared, because the people who understand this moment aren't panicking or running around in fear. They prepared months ago, and now they're watching events unfold, knowing their wealth is secure outside the system that's collapsing around us. I'm Sarah with Money Aftermath. Thank you for investing your time in understanding what's really happening with your money. Drop a comment right now telling me your biggest concern after watching this, and I'll do my best to address the most common questions in upcoming videos. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with everyone you care about before it's too late. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll dive even deeper into protecting yourself during the greatest financial transformation of our lifetime.